Oh, I thought this was going to be important, sorry.
No,
it's really hard
good.
to tell where there's going to be any important story here. Half the time there is story, it's unimportant.
You need like a dedicated cutscene to make sure that it's important, it feels like.
Anyway, I was just going to say, though, that... Oh, cool, nice train. I was going to say that if you're with me in a party and I'm just a party... Wow. I'm a petty jerk, right? Maybe you say something that could be considered racially offensive, or maybe you say something that could be considered wrong-think, right? And maybe I just report that. And maybe all of a sudden that's hate speech to PlayStation, whereas there was context to that situation. So, like, for example, here's a great example of it. I'm not going to get into this, by the way, but I'm just going to say, let's say that we had 3 hardcore religious people in a chat, right? And they were talking about that stuff. That could get dicey real quick and be considered hate speech. Like, what if somebody brought up something like the Bible and homosexuality? Now, you know what I mean? Everybody with religious takes has a different take on a big issue like that. Now, you're going to have people like me where it's like, I don't care, man, you do you. You know, you do whatever you want.
Right.
You know, you're not hurting me. You're just living your lifestyle. I've always seen it as like, well, I'm very libertarian with everything. If something's not hurting me, I don't care at all. But you might have somebody who's a nice person who has a different take and wants to have a conversation about it. Well, or is that going to be considered wrong-think and unacceptable because they had the bad take? And that personally, it wouldn't offend me because I don't care. I would share my thing of like why I feel how I feel and why I think you just shouldn't care about other people's business. I'm not saying that to make myself look good. I'm just explaining because I don't want someone to get the wrong idea from that topic.
Sure.
Because it's way too easy to piss everybody off now, which is kind of sad. Wait, what's that green thing?
I think that's just loot.
Oh, is it? I want to get that.
Yeah, it's just like just above common loot, I think. But it could be helpful. It could be good stuff.
Okay, I see what you're saying. But yeah, do you get what I'm saying with that too? Like maybe wrong think isn't okay now, or something that's against the general narrative. Maybe that's the thing too, is like the definition of what is hate speech or what is this or that is always changing. And so who's to say that someone saying something can't be taken completely out of context, or someone trying to have a conversation and be informed about an issue that's maybe difficult. Like maybe you're talking to maybe you are playing in the north and you're talking to someone from the south, not that they're all this way, who maybe has a different, not great take on something, and you're trying to explain something to them. Well, is somebody else in the party just going to report them and be like, this guy's a bigot about that guy?
And that's what's hard, too, is like, you also don't know who you're reporting the person to. So you could be reporting it to someone, like, you know, I guess it's not clear what Sony's standards are on that, per se, as far as I know. Like, no. It's kind of vague, which is the problem that, like, Twitter and a lot of these other places have had, too, with blocking people or banning people from their platforms. It's like, well, it's not clear what I've said or what other people are saying that is actually a problem and that's actually offensive. And it's also bad if it's biased towards one side or the other, or one, political or ideological belief. So it becomes a problem of like, well, this is vague. You can just ban people on command if they say something that you don't agree with, whether it actually be a moral problem or not. And I think that's where it's also going to be frustrating for people if they're getting reported, or if they're getting their voice recorded and then sent over to Sony. It's like, well, then it's out of my hands. It's up to Sony to say whatever they think. They're the judge, jury, and executioner at that point. And that's kind of hard. That's kind of a difficult place to put people in. And not to say that it's an entirely bad thing per se, because if someone is being a real problem and is like saying things that are completely out of line as far as like death threats or things like that. Or
the N-word, like calling, like I'm just saying, like calling somebody that, you know, like as like obviously you're playing with someone who's black and just throwing that around, like to hurt their feelings and make them feel bad and make them feel like trash, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
Because that happens, by the way, online, where it's like just somebody's like, well, I could piss this person off by being really racist.
Yeah.
And not as a meme or anything, just being a dick. That's something that does happen. And I think in some way, if you get upset at those people, it's what they want because they're just jerks. But like that's the thing that happens, is there's just people who are just trying to make you angry. And the Sony thing does give an outlet to get those people out of there who are purposely trying to ruin it for everyone else. Like not make a joke, not make an unacceptable joke, but just be a dick. It totally does enable like the online community to get cleaned up in some ways, and I get that. But the problem is that who is it to decide what kind of person this is or what violates the rules? I mean, there's going to be things that are definitely not okay, like that, which is actual hate speech, right? But there's going to be things that are more dicey as well, like weird political opinions, or maybe a take on something that's not generally seen as favorable, or maybe edgy jokes that aren't meant to piss people off and they're told between friends, and maybe someone is a whiny little priss who goes and tattles to the teacher about it. And that's kind of where the problem is. A lot of this is judging intent of the person, and how do you do that if you don't know them? You heard the example I gave too about my friend who is on the autism spectrum.
Yes,
in my video, like he would say stuff that was a little not acceptable, even as jokes, sometimes even racially, and it would be like not offensive to me, but I'd be like, dude, you can't say that because like people are gonna get mad at you and they don't know who you are. Like they're going to throw a punch at you because they won't know that you're like a nice guy telling a joke that you don't know is unacceptable to these people. They'll just think that you are a bigot or a douche.
Right.
They'll think that you're trying to antagonize them. And so now you're putting Sony in the position where they have to decide who that is, what their intent was, all that stuff. And I don't know if I trust Sony with that, personally. I don't, and it's not even just because it's Sony. I don't trust anybody to do that, to play the social police. That's the other problem, too, is that all this stuff is protected under the First Amendment, and that doesn't apply to companies, which I've always kind of thought it should a little bit, the free speech stuff, because if you look into it, it really doesn't. It's weird. I don't know how I feel about all this. It's just, I don't feel like giving a private company leeway to police what I say is going to benefit me in any way. Even if I'm the most non-offensive, innocuous person of all time, if you and I were playing 3 hours of a game, I'm sure you could find something that could be taken badly. Like, how wouldn't you?
That's what's so easy and challenging about it, is that you can that's I guess where it gets to the problem of, like I was saying about with like Twitter and Facebook, how they have issues with this, is that they also try to police things like that, and they also try to ban people and control the population on their platform as far as what they can and cannot say a little bit. And I'm not sure that Sony's doing that. Maybe there is good intentions behind this, but it just gets really tricky when you're trying to police what people say and do it in a way that is fair and evenly distributed throughout the entire population. It's hard to do that on such a big platform where there's millions of people playing all the time.
And you have no context of who the person is or what they were talking about ahead of time. Like,
no.
You do know, too, that Sony, whoever their moderation team is not going to have time to listen to a 2-hour party chat.
No.
To gain the context.
There's no way. And I think that's also part of the problem, is that the context is going to be difficult, along with, like, you have to try to have an even, I don't know, like, it's hard to have a judge, jury, and executioner with that and not have some of them be partial to certain ways of thinking that likely they're going to run into users who don't align with their thinking, and so they'll find what they say is offensive, even if it's just something that isn't offensive at all. It's just something, it's just an opinion. And so I think that's when it gets really challenging, and I think that's what's the problem with that, is that there's a lot of problems with it, but one of the major ones is there's not really like a universally accepted way of doing that, of policing speech on any platform.
No, it becomes very quickly biased.
Yes.
And I also think, too, oh, nice, I actually made that shot. I also think as well, too, that it's important to mention that I really do think that there's not a place for people who are actually, hardcore antagonists and really racist or hateful and trying to upset people. Or there are people who really do want you to hurt yourself, like they're just sadistic. No, those people are in the minority, but I totally get that you don't want those people on the platform, and that's where the good intention is to me.
Yeah,
is not wanting those people on the platform. I just think that it's too hard to tell who those people are. Like, sometimes someone says something douchey in anger that they shouldn't have said and don't really feel that way, and I'm not even talking about that sort of issue, but just anything, and you don't really know if they're a bad person who's that way outside of that conversation or not. It also removes it removes room for conversation to me, to like teachable moments. I am doing so bad, dude.
That's all right. Get your health load up.
Like I said, like a bad take, for example. I think that just reporting someone and being like, well, you did the bad thing, so you're gone, completely removes room for discussion and personal growth as well. And I don't think that's ever been a strong suit of these companies, is to allow for that, because they would rather get someone out of there than change minds, you know? I've always stood by the fact that, should I just get out of here?
Yeah, let's just go to let's get the objective. Let's get your PIM particles.
Should I grab that or no?
Nah.
Okay. I've always stood by the idea that if you cut out a man's tongue, I think this was a quote from, what's his name? Not Tolkien, but I think this is George R.R. Martin, but I don't know. But anyway, it's the idea that if you cut out a man's tongue, you're not silencing him. You're just telling the world that you're afraid of what he has to say. And that's kind of how I've always seen it, is you're just lending credibility to these people who think like, well, the whole world's against me and my narrative and I'm right. And then by just banning them when they say something douchey, you're just proving them right to them. You're not changing anything. They'll just come back with a different username and be just as much of a dick. So it's like a Band-Aid solution in a lot of ways to a societal problem. Whereas at least with discussion of stuff through any of these platforms, you have the possibility of, I don't know, you have the possibility of changing minds or changing a situation, etc. And I think that all these platforms going in this direction of shoot first, ask questions later, let's get this behavior out of here, can be not what they want, because they just see those people come back with alt accounts and they have to keep doing it over and over. Right. It doesn't actually ever permanently solve anything. But I don't think they think about that really at all. And I also think that an issue too is somebody was saying that one reason for this was, I guess this is alleged, I don't know if this really happened, but I was reading about it, I think it did, that there was a self-termination over a PlayStation party, over bullying that happened in it. Like, kids were bullying another kid and they took their own life, that kid who was getting bullied.
Jeepers.
And that was one reason for it. But the problem is that I don't know if Sony... I can't speak to that situation, but like, if you think about it, I don't really know how reporting that situation to Sony would have stopped that tragedy, because maybe they'd banned the people, but the words were still said. So, you know what I'm saying? What are you gonna... There's no perfect solution here. You don't want no oversight, because... What is that? Explosive?
I don't know.
Oh, weird. You don't want no oversight, because then you can't do anything with it. But if you just go this weird absolutism route, I think that you're just going to piss everyone off and not solve the problem. And I don't know what you do, I guess, to solve this.
It's really hard. I think it's kind of a... I don't know, this might sound not empathetic at all, but it almost feels like it's a risk of playing online with other people. It's you're risking running into people that are genuinely mean and not good people. Just like if you go really anywhere, you know, if you have a service and you are using it and there's other people on there, there's a chance you'll run into very unpleasant, mean people. And I think that's what's kind of hard about it, is that especially when there's this many people on it, like there are with so many of these ginormous platforms, there do need to be, I agree, like some form of regulation in terms of service and everything like that, but it's at some point it's impossible to manage all of that. There's just no way. There's too much going on. There's too much to handle, and you kind of have to almost allow it be what it is at some point, I think.
Well, and I think friends should stick up for each other too.
Well, of course, yeah.
Like, yeah. I think that... Oh, wait. I'm not
saying that's a good thing by any means.
No, I know.
Suicide or anything like that. It's just, it's hard to... like, you want regulations and stuff, but it's also, from, like, Sony's perspective, that's a hard thing to manage and try to deal with. That's what all of these platforms have had a hard time dealing with, and a lot of them haven't handled it well at all. And I think that's what's so challenging about having something that gets almost out of control of the company. Like, there's so much volume, there's so much stuff to sift through, it's almost impossible to keep up with.
Yeah, it certainly is a problem. I don't think that sounds non-empathetic. I think that's I think that that's just kind of a reality that we live with the social age and everything. I think it's important that you also know like what you want to subject yourself to. Like, for example, if someone's being a douche, you should not put up with it. You should leave and go play with someone else, or not enable that behavior. I think friends should stick up for each other as well, which I don't think is something we see enough of, just in general. I'm getting rid of all this. It's all crap.
Yeah, you don't want it. Yeah.
I think that friends should stick up for each other more in general, which we don't see enough of, especially in younger, friend groups. I think a lot of people are afraid to do that because they don't want to be not in the cool group or whatever. And I think that as you get older, you realize those things don't matter. Like, do you think I don't know. Like, there's people now that think I'm cool. I still don't think I'm cool, but there's people who do, like in the channel and stuff. I was never a cool kid in high school. I had a lot of problems with self-validation and self-worth and stuff, and I've talked about it before, not to speak to that one situation, but I was someone who was suicidal at one point, and I think that part of it, too, was letting other people, letting their opinions and takes on me affect me way too much, and it's one of those things where you have to realize that, like, you have value beyond the thoughts of other people, and if the people around you are douchey, you need to get them out of your life and find new people. I do think it should be reported, because I think that there's people who take advantage of those situations, like that girl who convinced her boyfriend to self-terminate. Do you remember this?
Yeah,
over text and stuff like that. That's awful. And there's just horrible people out there that will do that kind of stuff. And I think that the sad thing is a lot of times people don't see that for what it is until later. And I guess what I'm getting at is if people are bullying you in an online chat or anything like that and it's making you feel that way, I think that's where it should be reported with this feature. And I also think that's where you need to realize you have more value than putting up with that. But I do think though that lumping everything in with those extreme situations is not the way to go either. And I think that that's kind of what's happening with what could potentially happen, I should say, because it hasn't happened yet, right? Like, I don't think it's fair to say that's what's happening, but that's potentially what could happen is the old phrase, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, of like all of these minor situations are getting tied up in these huge ones is a potential problem with this level of oversight. And like I said, I don't know what you do, but I do think it's all very serious. I don't know if anything I said didn't make sense or was mean or anything. I have no idea, but it's kind of hopefully conveyed well.
No, I was thinking the same thing. I hope that, like, it's a bit of a heavy topic unexpectedly, but yeah, it's kind of a really hard thing to talk about and kind of go into, and it's
people
really...
need to be able to talk about this stuff, though. I think it's a problem that you and I are even worried about if it's offensive. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a problem with today's culture, is that everything has to not upset anyone. I think if you're being just like an outright douche about something, totally, that's douchey. That's not okay, right?
Right.
But having a conversation should be what it is, having a conversation. And back in the day, if you got pissed off about that, that was your problem. And I still think to some extent that should be the case, unless the person is just outright trying to antagonize you and be a dick.
Right.
Which I would hope people know we never are, but people get really upset about stuff for some reason. You also shouldn't put 100% stock into things we say.
No.
We're not experts.
No, not at all.
By the way,
a couple of idiots, actually.
Pretty much. So I take out the legs. Okay, well, that's not good.
Oh, no, no.
I take out the legs, and then do you know what I do here?
I think you're looking for its eye, which should be towards the front.
I honestly can't tell which.
Oh, that's the rear, that's for sure.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
That looks like the front.
No. That's the rear. That's
okay.
how.
Oh,
Yo.
okay. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I think these are all it is serious, but it's stuff that needs to be able to be talked about, and I think we'd be really fake if we didn't address stuff like that ever.
Yeah.
It'd just be a fake Saturday morning cartoon. Like, hey guys, welcome back to Avengers. Well, see ya.
Everything's cool all the time.
Yeah, nothing bad happens in the world.
Nope.
I mean, that's fake too, so it's just hard. I was gonna say to you, by the way, by the time this goes up, this will be long over, but did you see I mean, there's an example of this too, even on what was my subreddit, which I got tired of because the people on it got so toxic over time.
Did you delete the subreddit?
I'm archiving it because I'm just tired of it. And I'm the only one who would moderate it ever. And there was one other person who was willing to help me moderate it, and I appreciate him. That's actually Lego. He helps moderate the live streams, so I appreciate him. He offered to help. But it was a thing where over time, I would say probably like a tenth of the people there just got super toxic, and instead of using it for anything constructive, they would just use it as a place to complain about stuff, whether it's like a joke I told, or whether it was like a thing in the Discord, like, hey, I got banned from the Discord because I broke the rules because I'm a dumbass. I'm here to complain about it. And it's like over time, I just got tired of dealing with it, and I got tired of deleting stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I just didn't care anymore, because I was like, well, if you guys want to be toxic, go for it. I don't have to deal with you. And that's partially what I'm saying about the online thing. Because I think there's a point where you just cut people out because they're just a problem.
Right.
Right. That's kind of how I felt about the subreddit. Most of the people there weren't that way, but it was enough that it was annoying. And there were also enough passive people that would enable the drama aspect of it, because I think they just found it entertaining, and I just didn't. It never offended me. Like, if you have a problem with something I say, I don't care. Like, if I'm being mean, I care, you know? But if it's like a sarcastic joke or something and you get offended at that, that's your problem.
Right.
I really stand by that, because you're not... This is going to be a douchey thing I'm going to say a little bit, but it's a harsh reality. If you can't handle a joke, you can't handle life. That's how it is. Like, you're going to have a hard time, because there are a lot of people in life who are just dicks. And they don't care if they offend you or not. They don't care if they upset you. In fact, they're looking to do it. And if you're always just giving them that ability, especially with tiny things, like here was an example of that. I remember on one video, someone was like, you know, it's pronounced Basel, Carlo, not Basil. And I just made a joke. I was like, how do you pronounce I don't care. We got him, R2. That's like the message I left as a joke, like just to be sarcastic. And they were like, wow, is this really how he treats his subscribers? It's like, dude, I literally included we got him R2. I don't know how I could make that more of an obvious, like, sarcastic joke.
Yeah, clearly a joke, clearly not meant to be, like...
Serious?
No, or condescending even, you know, or just more of like a joke, and that's it.
You could say it's not funny, that's fine.
That's reasonable, yeah.
I mean, like, I don't care. Like,
yeah.
I don't find plenty of things funny that other people find funny. That's fine.
Yeah.
But to get pissy about it and, like, start a Reddit post like a little bitch is kind of what it is. I'm being serious. That's kind of what it is. Because it's like, oh, man, he said something sarcastic to me. Now I'm going to whine about it. It's like, dude, just tell me, like, hey, man, I didn't find that very funny. If you just straight up told me that, like, hey, I didn't find that funny, were you trying to be mean? I would say no, I wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, that comes off as how an adult would handle it. This is going to be taken the wrong way by somebody, but I'm at the point in this conversation where I don't care. Starting a discussion of like, wow, what a guy, I'm entitled to this response and he gave me this response, I'm butthurt about it. That comes off as whining or bitching to me. It doesn't come off as actually solving anything. Like, just tell me under that comment. Like, just straight up, you can answer me too, you know? Like, make a joke back at my expense. People do it all the time. It's fine. Or tell me, hey man, like, I took this way. Is this what you meant? I'd say, no. It was a joke. We got him R2 is clearly a meme. I don't understand why you took that seriously. Didn't mean it that way.
Right.
You know?
Right.
That's how you handle a situation. Otherwise, you come off as like the tattletale. The kid that like whines to the teacher, like, well, you know, this thing that barely inconvenienced me really upset me. And it's like, dude, just tell me. Just tell me that happened. Don't start a big thing out of it. Because otherwise, it's like you're just looking for attention and drama. And that, to me, comes off as a whiny thing and not as a helpful thing. Which is why I made the joke about being a whiny bitch.
Right.
Because to me,
Right.
that's different than solving the situation. I just think there's big differences there in how you handle those things. So if you told a joke and it was like, I perceived it as really rude, and I said, hey man, you know, I took that as this, is this what you meant? Would you double down on it and say F you? Or would you say, no, that's not what I meant?
Well, yeah, obviously the FU one.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. No, obviously you'd say like, well, you know, I didn't mean it that way. even if you didn't like outright apologize, you'd be able to explain like how you meant it, right? And I think that's different than like, can you imagine if I went to Nate immediately and I was like, dude, T said this thing, I'm so mad.
Yeah, you'd be talking to the same person because we're one and the same. But yeah,
Right.
you could.
Well, alter ego.
Hypothetically, yeah, you could talk to my alter ego, and that'd be great.
But don't you agree with me? Isn't there a difference there between just starting drama and stirring the pot and actually trying to address a situation? Because I think one is almost a sense of entitlement, like, oh, I didn't like what was said, I'm going to make a deal out of it. And the other is, hey man, this kind of hurt my feelings.
Well,
like, let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's just conflict management skills is really what it comes down to. It's just understand, and I guess being willing to give people the benefit of the doubt to some extent, because I feel like that's the way that everything's been manifested on like Twitter and everywhere else, is that everyone is angry all the time, and that's just how they react, and that everyone hates each other, and that's just how it is. So there's no like benefit of the doubt ever of joking or of subtlety or context. It's just, I'm angry, other people must be angry, we all hate each other, let's just yell. Where instead of like, especially if you're in a community like this one, where it's like a let's play and where we talk about fun things like superheroes, gaming, everything like that, and our intentions have been made clear that we do not mean to offend or hurt anyone, and that we're just talking about stuff and having a good time, then I think it's definitely something where you should look at the context and understand, like, all right, well, this is probably not what you meant, but this is how I took it. What did you mean by this exactly? Can you explain yourself a little bit more? And perfect. And then that's when it's like, oh, I'm happy to do so. I'm sorry that it came off this way. This is how I meant it. And that's an open conversation where things actually get accomplished, where I think there's a huge lack of that nowadays, which is unfortunate. It's just there's not enough conversations. It's more so like, I took it this way. Must be how you meant it. Now I'm angry and I hate you and I hope you die. And that's just kind of where it goes. You know?
Well, that's the thing, is it annoyed me because like now that's the kind of person that I wouldn't apologize how it came off, because like to me what you did's worse, you know what I mean? Like you're the type of person who just wants to make drama out of something instead of address a problem.
Yeah.
Which I think is worse to me. It's like, well, then you don't deserve my empathy on that. Because you clearly are just an attention seeker in a lot of ways. It's kind of how that sort of person comes off to me, in my opinion, is not someone who wants conflict management or resolution. They're just like, well, I didn't like how this was said. It made me mad, so I'm going to deal some damage.
Right.
It's kind of like those people who will disagree with someone's political take and then cancel them. And it's like, you're not canceling them because you think they're a bad person. You know you're not. You're doing it because you don't like what they said. It made you feel bad.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, where's the problem there? Is it really all on what they said, or is there a little bit to be said about the fact that you feel bad over some stranger's words?
Correct.
There's a little bit there too, I think.
There's a huge difference between the two too, and they get so confused and muddled, and I don't know why.
And I find it's like amusing in a way. It's not amusing when I hurt someone's feelings because I don't really want to, but there is a weird sense of there also is a weird sense of entitlement now of like personal,
thanks guys,
I'm entitled to this sort of response and to like get the verbal reach around when I talk to someone.
Right.
It's like, no, maybe the problem is like you're not entitled to anything, actually. I think you're entitled to basic human decency, and like, so a sarcastic joke is something I'd tell to anybody.
Right.
That's my basic human decency, and if you don't like that about my personality or who I am, etc., you don't have to be here. I'm not saying leave,
right?
But you're not held hostage.
No, yeah, you can come and go as you please. That's the thing.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
And it's the beauty of. This takes me back to the.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, that's the beauty of any of this. Is like, if I'm being a dick, 100%. One, I hope you would say, hey man, this is what we're talking about right now. I'd be careful because that could come off this way to them. I would hope that you would say that to me.
Of course,
first off. But secondly, I think that if I'm just being a jerk, like I'm just like, well, here's the thing, poor people deserve to be poor because, you know, like, okay, well then I'm being clearly offensive on purpose and I should apologize for that.
Yeah.
I'm being a douchebag.
Definitely.
That's a bad take and you're a dick. That's where you apologize. I think this weird idea that everybody has to apologize over every little joke or sentiment now is weird. I mean, you even see this with like who someone supports politically. Oh, I'm sorry that you found out about that. It's like, what? Or, oh, I'm sorry you found my old joke. what?
Yeah.
Like, you're sorry because you got caught. If I apologized to you over that, it would be because people were mad at me, not because I meant it. I'm not going to apologize for something I don't mean. That's fake as hell. I would take someone who's like a little bit not perfect, who won't just fake apologies and whine and make a sad music montage about how sorry they are to get not canceled, over someone who does those things and is really fake.
Yeah.
I'd always take that, but it seems like a lot of people want the other. They want the world's tiniest violin playing all the time and the super fake drama. Should I clarify anything before we finish this? Should I say that I'm sorry for using the term whiny bitch?
No, dude.
That was a joke, by the way. I don't actually think anybody's a whiny bitch.
No, I don't think that you really said anything that was out of line. I think it was just pretty reasonable. I mean, people can certainly let us know.
Why are you whispering now?
I could talk louder. Sorry about that.
Do you not want to get canceled?
I would keep whispering so they don't hear me.
Do you guys see that when he asked T if he said anything bad, T just whispered? He was like, "Hey man, like, where's my $30? You're being really offensive. Can you give me that $50 right now? You're really offending me."
It's true, dude.
I don't know. My goal is never to hurt anyone's feelings, but it does make me mad when people try to turn something into drama. That makes me angry. Because I think that that's unnecessary. I think that's attention seeking, and it makes you look whiny and like you want attention more than anything bothered you.
Correct.
I think if you have a problem with someone, you should go to them, you should say something. I think that if you have a public allegation to levy over a crime or whatever, you should report it to the police, and then if they don't do anything about it, you should take it public with any of these public figures, etc. You know, anything like that. But if it's just, he said something sarcastic to me, it hurt my feelings. Didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
And
that's
just,
it.
Yeah, and just, I guess, try to perceive the motivations based on maybe, hopefully, like hours of content that you've watched on the channel, and know that that's not really the intention of the people that are doing it. You know, for most people on even most platforms, but like on YouTube, for example, you'll find that most of them don't mean to hurt other people's feelings and cause problems. Most of them are just enjoying making content for other people.
Well, I think it is worth saying right before we wrap up, because I kind of want to be done playing this.
Yeah.
This is why a lot of people don't bother answering comments.
Yeah.
By the way, it's because they just don't want to deal with the. They don't want to deal with the drama around it, or what if someone takes what I say the wrong way. So it's easier to ignore the community.
Right.
And I think that kind of person who's ready to jump on something they don't like and just throw it out there, and try and make a big deal out of it, I think that's important to remember that that's one reason why a lot of YouTubers don't interact with you, is because they're tired of those types of people. And they're tired of constantly having to tiptoe around and be afraid of what they say being taken the wrong way and pissing people off. And so it's easier to just not care what you think as an audience member and just not interact with you at all. And I don't want to do that. So if I occasionally rub you the wrong way with a response, I'd rather do that than ignore you and pretend you don't exist, because I think that's fake as hell too. So, I don't know.
I agree, dude.
I'm done.
All right.
Sorry.
No, that's all right.
Pissed me off.